A number of you have joined from, again, coast to coast, north and south. My name, by ways of an introduction, my name is Mario Zaskowski, and I've been in infection control for, over 25 years now. So today I have the privilege to be presenting on behalf of Salon, and we're going to be talking about germs, which isn't typically a very exciting topic. So hence why I've taken a little bit of a quirkier take on this in the hopes that it'll keep your interest. It'll give you perhaps a little bit of a laugh, but it'll also give you some takeaway education. So without, I'm going to get my notes up. All right. Well, welcome everybody, and welcome to Breaking Up with Germs, a spa love story. Brought to you by Prevention Salon and Spa Disinfectants. The topic of infection control may not be as thrilling as a whirlwind romance, but it can still result in a lot of drama, heartache, and personal stress. But not to worry, today I'm here to spill the tea on how you can keep your spa clean and germ-free with as little effort as posting an update to your Facebook profile. All right, let me just make sure my notes. All right, I think I'm synced. All right. So many infection prevention training materials look something like this, which is why we typically lose people after a few slides. So today, we're going to take a bit of a different approach and hopefully leave you with enough information to take away and continue with your education. Maintaining a clean and germ-free spa is actually quite easy once you know how. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about how to avoid those toxic relationships. I'll be your germ therapist today, so feel free to ask questions and share your feelings. This is a safe space. All right. In an ideal world, all your client relationships would look something like this. Beautiful, healthy, in a word, perfect. But as the saying goes, beauty is more than skin deep, and what lurks just below the surface can lead to STDs. That's right. Oops, sorry. That's right, spa-transmitted diseases. Illness, disease, and infections are spread through germs because they're so small and we can't see them. It's sometimes easy to pretend they don't even exist. So let's bring them out in the open, call them out by name, and understand the risks they pose to you, your clients, your business, and your reputation as spa professionals. There are 3 germ types that typically like to make an unannounced drop into your spa. So let me introduce these unsavory characters to you now. I warn you, this may not be pretty. All right, first and foremost, we've got bacteria. Bacteria promote themselves with profile names like Staphylococcus aureus, Streptococcus, and Pseudomonas aeruginosa. They're responsible for those not so glamorous skin infections that will leave your clients feeling rather irritated. E. coli can ignite a fiery gastrointestinal affair that puts you in a hot seat. Klebsiella pneumonia causes a double dose of trouble with both respiratory and urinary tract infections. And Acinetobacter preys on individuals with compromised immune systems. Bacteria can make your skin crawl, leave you short of breath, or fight dirty below the waistline. You don't want bacteria getting anywhere near your workstations or your treatment areas. While bacteria can get under your skin, viruses are the true drama queens. They've been in the headlines lately spreading COVID, but that's not their only claim to fame. Cold and flu season are now upon us, and they're ready to dish out their annual influenza mayhem. Then there's Hep B and C, the dynamic duo of hepatitis, the infamous herpes, and still relevant HIV, all ready to make an unexpected guest appearance as well. Viruses should never be taken lightly or ignored. And finally, let's not forget about our old friend fungi. He's the lonely germ who enjoys spreading athlete's foot and pesky nail fungus. Anyone who's encountered nail fungus knows just how unsightly it can be. Trust me, you don't want me to show you the pictures. And how stubborn it is to get rid of. Fungus is like trying to get rid of that annoying ex who just keeps calling. Germs come with some quite nasty profiles. For example, bacteria replicate every 20 minutes. That means a single bacterium can become 1 million in just 8 hours. And here, we're just talking about a single germ. Imagine if it was married. Ba-dum-bum. Viruses can live on surfaces for weeks, even months, under the right conditions. And fungi may not replicate as quickly, but nonetheless can become an issue if left to themselves. Bacteria and fungi are like weeds that spread in your garden, and viruses are like dog poo that lie waiting in the grass. These germs will use all sorts of pickup lines to get your attention, but trust me, you want nothing to do with them. You wouldn't bring them home to meet your family, and you certainly don't want them showing up unexpectedly at work. Aside from the spa-transmitted diseases they carry, they can also negatively impact your business. They can get you in a lot of trouble with state and cosmetology boards and give you a bad rap with your clients, which can spread like juicy gossip. All right, so how do germs spread? Well, this is the way that we're traditionally familiar with, and that's through personal interaction. This one is easy to avoid. Just don't do any of these things with your clients. Aerosolization is another way germs can spread, which is a technical term for the expulsion of respiratory droplets from nose or mouth, what we typically associate with a sneeze, which can launch droplets several feet away. But it can also come as a result of coughing, laughing, or even loud talking. You'll recall during the pandemic, we all wore masks to reduce the amount of aerosolization we were expelling, as well as minimizing our exposure to germ spew others were putting into the air. But now that we're all mask-free again, this method of spreading infections is back with a vengeance, especially during the flu season. So I think many of you anecdotally, I'll recall when people suffer an illness and they skip work, what do they usually do? They have a spa day, and then they'll come and get their hair done, or they'll go for a massage or get a facial. So they were too sick to go to work, but they're happy to bring their germs to your places of work, if you will. And as such, you're sort of doubly at risk. And I think this is a scenario that many of you can relate to. All right, the third way that germs can spread is through surface contact. Germs are the ultimate freeloaders. They have a knack for hitching a ride on hard surfaces and rarely pick up the check at restaurants. Counters, chairs, equipment, skincare devices, containers, door handles, and other objects are typical hangouts. And here's where it really gets interesting. Anything that touches these germ-contaminated surfaces becomes a potential hotspot for transmission, especially to your hands. And then it's all about that innocent touch, a brush to the eye, a rub to the nose, or even a hand to the mouth, and those germs are introduced unwittingly into your body, where they can potentially lead to infection, disease, or transmission to others. So it's a shame you can't see me at a trade show, and I do invite you to go to these trade shows because they can be a lot of fun. But at a trade show, to demonstrate what the spread of germs is like, I'll get out a can of shaving cream and I'll just spread it all over a table with numerous objects on it. And as I touch those objects and in turn touch other objects, that shaving cream gets passed on to those objects. And then it's my phone, and it's my cup of coffee, and it's my water bottle. And eventually germs are everywhere, or at least shaving cream is. And then it's an unwitting touch to the face, like I said, or eyes, ears. You go to the bathroom, etc. And those germs can unwittingly come with you. Even if you go and wash your hands before you go to the washroom, think about all the objects you've potentially interacted with before you got to that destination. And as you're doing that, those germs spread, they contaminate other surfaces, they can now replicate, they can lie in wait, and they continue to be an ongoing problem. All right, so let's just do a quick review. Because germs can't be seen, it's easy to take them for granted. Just because something looks clean doesn't mean it's germ-free. Exposure to germs can lead to nasty consequences to your health, clients, and business. Germs can spread through personal contact, aerosolization, and through contaminated surfaces. And while we're talking about infection and contamination, just so you get the sort of the terminology correct, people become infected, or living objects can become infected. Your dog can be infected. Surfaces become contaminated. So they get cross-contaminated with other surfaces, but if that germ load gets spread to a person, it then infects them. When we spread germs to objects, we contaminate them. And that's just a nice way of being able to segregate the two definitions. All right, further review. Avoiding germs through personal contact is kind of intuitive, but it need not just take place when swapping spit. A hug, a handshake, touching infected skin can also result in germ transmission. Aerosolization and contact with objects during a client appointment means your surfaces, equipment, devices, chairs, and so on will become contaminated with germs that will multiply and continue to being a source for the spread of illness and infections. With this in mind, let's turn our attention to how the threat of germ transmission can be mitigated, if not eliminated altogether. But before I do so, let's do a little bit of myth busting. I always wear gloves. I don't need to worry about germs. While wearing gloves is certainly best practice in spas, it's not always possible and can also lead to a false sense of security. As we've just learned, germs can live on surfaces for hours, sometimes even days or weeks. Every time you touch an infected client or a contaminated surface, your gloves become a carrier of germs. It's a bit like trying to keep a lid on an affair. Eventually, things just will get out. Just imagine how many items you touch in the course of your client interactions, your work surfaces, devices, equipment, furniture, containers, phone, water bottle, etc. What happens when you're tidying up those treatment areas at the end of the day? Are you still wearing gloves? Or how about when you want to go to the washroom, lunch break, using your phone, and so on? Gloves may protect your hands, but they do not remove the threat of germs from your spa. It's like trying to hide your true feelings in a relationship. Eventually, they'll find a way to make themselves known. I'll tell you an anecdotal story. I know you folks work in professional beauty environments. My wife works at a hospital, and they've been banned from wearing gloves during rounds from room to room. And the reason being is that they find that there's more compliance when people are actually interacting with patients, with equipment, etc., with bare hands, because they're more likely to wash those hands after each one of those interactions. With gloves, we tend to be a little bit more sloppy. We feel that we've got this barrier that protects us, and it does. Unfortunately, it does not rid the germs from being spread out into all those areas. And eventually, at the end of the day, the gloves will come off, and now you're interacting with all those surfaces once again, even though your client's no longer there. So that's the hard sort of headspace to get around that. Yes, gloves help you in the moment. They do not get rid of germs. All right, so now that we've painted this really nasty picture, not to worry. When it comes to stopping the spread of bacteria, viruses, and fungi, there are two surefire ways to protect you and your clients, much like having your own personal bodyguard or a wingman who looks out for you. So The first line of defense is one we've been taught since we were children. Wash your hands. We've just discussed this. Hand washing is the easiest thing you can do to get rid of germs that might cause illness or infection when you inadvertently touch your eyes, nose, and mouth. It's very effective for 15 seconds and offers an even greater level of protection after 30 seconds. The difference between 90% and nearly 100% is the number of germs that are left behind to multiply and spread. Like those weeds in your yard, the more you pull out, the less likely they are to take over your garden. Oh, there is a note on this slide about sanitizers. Yes, they are an adequate substitute for washing your hands. However, because they are alcohol-based, frequent use will start your hands to dry out, crack, peel, etc. So really, the old hand washing method of soap and water is the best one that you can take part of. All right. Your second line of defense is to kill all the germs that may get left behind after client service or treatment. For your estheticians, imagine your spa space and think of all the objects, surfaces, equipment, and devices you and your client may have come in contact with during their appointment. All those surfaces need to be disinfected after every client session so they don't spread into the next appointment. Now, I don't know if we have any hair people among us, but it's not that's just skin or massage or tattoo parlors. Every beauty environment facility will have those clients who do bring germs and leave them behind. So even if you're not hairstylist, you should also be aware as consumers that when you go to your favorite hairdresser, your barber, that these germs will be present. And so be sure to be looking out for proper sanitizing, cleaning, and disinfecting techniques to ensure your own safety as a consumer of these services. All right, let's bust another myth. Spray and wipe. No disinfectant kills on contact, but needs a certain amount of wet or dwell time to neutralize all germs present, anywhere from 1 to 10 minutes. Anything short of that, and you're leaving germs behind that can multiply and in short time become a cause for concern. I don't know your experiences collectively when we had COVID, but when we went to the grocery store, they would quickly do a Lysol wipe of the grocery carts and then wipe them immediately with some paper and then hand them to you. So Lysol's contact time is about 4 minutes, which means that that cart really needed to stay wet for 4 minutes before the germs were effectively removed. But it all made us feel good in the moment. However, as a practice to get rid of germs, it really wasn't doing all that much. All right. You should also be aware that many disinfectants with longer contact times may suffer something called premature evaporation. You may be leaving your surfaces wet for the requisite time per the label, but the disinfectant will evaporate before this full contact time is achieved. That may require reapplication with a spray or use of multiple wipes. So I don't know what you folks are all using right now, but if you were to read the label and you saw a 3 minute or a 4 minute, 5 even, diluted bleach is a 10-minute contact time. If you look to see the surfaces, equipment, devices, etc., that you are using with your disinfectant, and then actually count out the 3 minutes, the 4 minutes, the 5 minutes, the 10 minutes, you'll see that that solution does evaporate at that time. If you're not achieving that full wet time, you're not killing germs. So it's a real two-part process here. One, application, and two, leaving it wet for that requisite amount of time. This is sort of very counterintuitive to everything else we do. If we spill milk on a counter, you get a Bounty towel, you wipe it up, and you're done. In this case, it doesn't work that way. No disinfectant kills on application. That dwell, wet, or contact time must be adhered to in order for it to do its job. Therefore, when you're making your decision about what kind of a disinfectant to be using, be aware that the longer the contact time, the more time you have to be ensuring that whatever surfaces you're working with are in fact staying wet for that length of time. Furthermore, again, if you check the disinfectant label, you'll see that there's a variety of contact times sometimes indicated. So it's not uncommon to see a quick time for something like bacteria, a mid time for something like viruses, and a longer time for fungi, because each one of these pathogens or germs can be harder to kill depending on the disinfectant technology being used. So as such, you're being left in this position where you're trying to figure out, how long do I wait? Am I killing bacteria today? Am I killing viruses today? Or am I killing fungi? Because you can't see them, you don't know what you're doing. So in all likelihood, you're probably going to have to wait for the longest time indicated on the label to ensure that you're killing as many of the germs as possible. All right, so this is a little fun fact. And when I do this with audiences, we award a prize, but unfortunately, I can't do that here for the correct answer. So if we know that there's a contact time using disinfectants that can be anywhere from 1 to 10 minutes, why is it that washing one's hands with just soap and water, and soap is not a disinfectant, can be effective in 20 seconds? And the really interesting answer here is that when you wash your hands, you're not actually killing the germs. There's this magical thing that happens between the fats and the oiliness that's on your hands. When it combines with soap, it makes little soap bubbles that actually envelop the germs. And then when you rinse your hands, the water simply swishes those germs away. It doesn't actually kill them. It actually just shoots them down the drain, if you will. And that's why washing your hands is so effective, because it's got this combination of your own bodily fluid production as a protective mechanism. When you're dealing with surfaces, equipment, devices, et cetera, you don't have that luxury, because you're not taking those items into a car wash, if you will, where you can sort of clean it en masse and then rinse away. So again, the miracle of the human body, how it's capable of protecting us, and how when we try to replicate similar methods, we have to spend more time, more effort to achieve what the body can do just naturally. I'm sorry that no one won that prize. All right, so here's now a question that hopefully you've all asked at one point in your professional careers, to say, all right, what disinfectant, if I do recognize that germs are a workplace hazard, if I recognize that my state or cosmetology boards require that I have infection control practices within my facility, what disinfectant should I use? Aren't they all basically the same? In other words, don't they all just kill germs? And as long as I get any kind of disinfectant, I'm doing the job. Well, that's not quite the case, and let me explain why. When you're looking to find a ideal disinfectant, you have to choose between two balanced considerations. One is, it needs to be powerful. It needs to be hospital grade. It needs to be EPA approved, and that goes without saying, because you can't sell a disinfectant that's not EPA approved in America. So it needs to be able to kill germs quickly. It needs to be specifically made for spas and salons to tackle the types of germs that you're going to find in those locations. And on the other side, it needs to be safe. It needs to be non-irritating to you who are going to be working with these disinfectants all day long. It shouldn't come with a harsh smell, and it shouldn't ideally require the use of gloves. Now, if we go back a few slides, we recognize that use of gloves is best practice, but it's nice to know that on occasion when you need a quick wipe of some object, you don't have to don gloves on and then take them off again, which contributes to your time and obviously PPE cost. The interesting thing here is that it's really easy to create powerful disinfectants. If I gave you a stick of dynamite, it would probably kill all the germs within your facility. It would also kill you, your equipment, your building. So not an appropriate method of germ control. I can also give you a very safe disinfectant. Lemon juice, vinegar, all these things can also kill germs, but they take a long, long time, and they may not kill all the germs that you may find in your facility. So that's not great. Finding the ideal disinfectant is one that combines power with safety. And ideally, if you can find one that also includes an equal safety profile, that would even be a bonus, so that you're killing germs, you're not causing harm to yourself, and you're not causing any burden on the planet or the environment. So working with chemistries that are biodegradable, working with packaging options that are sustainable, ideally you're looking for that 1, 2, 3 punch. All right, so I think we've seen this scenario any number of times within various salons and spas. Why not just use a household disinfectant like Lysol or Clorox? It's cheap. I can get it at the big box stores. They usually sell them in a 12-pack. Why not? What you need to know is that these are not hospital-grade disinfectants made for professional environments to be used by professionals such as yourselves. They may kill some of the germs you recognize, but do you know how long it takes them to do so? Lysol, for example, takes 2 minutes to get rid of viruses and 4 minutes to kill bacteria. It doesn't kill fungus. Clorox does address fungus, but it has an across-the-board 4-minute contact time. 4 minutes, again, is a long time for a surface to stay wet. So reapplication is likely. And if you, in fact, read the small print on the label, it will say use a second wipe if reapplication is required. So they themselves know that the liquid solution within the wipes containers is not going to stay wet long enough on those surfaces. So in absence of anything else, yes, they're fine. Who hasn't used a pair of pliers to bang in a nail when you can't find a hammer? But they are not ideal, and they should be kept at home where they're best suited. All right, so let's look at the disinfectants that have been made for actual professional environments. I presume your spa doesn't look like this. Hopefully not. But did you know that most of the disinfectants on the market today use chemical technologies that have been around for several decades? In the past, concerns like efficacy, safety, environmental impact were very basic. Killing germs at any cost was all that mattered. But since then, salons and spas have modernized their treatments, services, and settings. So wouldn't it be fitting to also address how to manage infection control or the germs? So when you think about how often you've changed up your phones, how often you've changed up your cars, your computers, all this is technology that is continuously improving. And yet the disinfecting technology that's behind brand name disinfectants has not changed. They may have repackaged it, they may have made it look pretty, but the inherent formulas have not changed in 50, 60, in bleach's case, in 100 years. So this was the very question asked by the creators of prevention disinfectants, who looked at the challenges posed by infection control in beauty workspaces and said there had to be a better way. And so they came up with a new technology called accelerated hydrogen peroxide, which is the active ingredient that powers prevention disinfectants. So this has now become the next generation of germ-fighting performance. It's an EPA-registered, hospital-grade disinfectant that arms you with 3 superpowers to make you the hygiene hero in your battle against germs. So let's take a quick look at this. Prevention kills bacteria, viruses, and fungi in just 1 minute contact time across the board. None of this 3 minutes for this, 5 minutes for that. So in some cases, that's as much as 10 times faster than other disinfectants. If you're diluting bleach, bleach is a contact time of 10 minutes. It is 10 times faster than that. So remember, when a disinfectant has longer contact times, it will likely require reapplication owing to evaporation. More disinfectant, more waiting, more uncertainty. Nobody has time for that in a busy salon or spa. Unlike other disinfectants, prevention is non-irritating to eyes and skin and does not have a harsh chemical odor, nor does it contain quats, alcohol, or bleach, and does not need the use of gloves. It's hands-off for germs while you stay hands-on with your clients. And lastly, prevention's biodegradable formulation breaks down into oxygen and water, so it does not pose any issues for the environment. It's a responsible choice that won't have Mother Nature. Anecdotal aside, about a month ago during the writers' strike, we presented to the Makeup Artists Guild and Hairstylists Guild of California. They were very keen to learn how they could keep themselves safe during the upcoming influenza, but we were able to also tell them that it's not just a seasonal concern, but a year-round concern, that germs are always going to be present. And they were very receptive to the prevention story. And of course, in California, where there is an elevated concern about use of chemicals, harsh chemicals, toxic chemicals, quats in particular, they were very happy to hear that these disinfectants prevention were so benign and so safe and quick to use. So now you know that if you're using prevention in your spa, it's also being used to keep Hollywood's A-listers safe. So I know I've had some fun presenting infection prevention in a bit of a unique way today. I hope you got a bit of a chuckle, but also learned something along the way. If I leave you with one message, it's that maintaining a clean and germ-free spa doesn't have to be difficult or complicated. In fact, with prevention, it can be quite easy, fast, safe, and even eco-friendly. So you have one less thing to worry about, and you can focus on what you'd rather be doing. That can mean time spent with clients or more time spent on yourself. With prevention, you get to make the call. Well, thank you. I don't know how much time I've taken up, but we can open the floor up to some questions. I'll see whether on chat anyone has got anything they'd like to further talk about or suggest. And if some of you are leaving, thank you for joining me. I appreciate your attention and hope you do have a safe holiday in the upcoming months to come.